Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters of the Week video. As promised, here is part B of the continuing cryptid, the one that seems to have two different versions of itself. The other day I just did part A, which was the Yao Shikapu, which is a half woman, half giant spider that terrorized certain parts of Japan. If you haven't had a chance, check out that video because it will lead into this second part here. I'll include the link for it below too as well. But yes, this is a unique creature. I've never seen a cryptid that essentially becomes two versions of itself. Two completely different cryptids, but altogether the same creature nonetheless. And in this case, part B, instead of it being a half woman, half giant spider, it is instead a half woman, half giant octopus. So how different are they altogether? You know, the notion that you have one creature that is roaming the land and the other one in the sea, and that's because it was cast out into the sea almost as a form of punishment. And there's even an interesting twist, the notion that out there in the sea it no longer seems to be rampant in terms of destruction, in terms of malice. No, in this case it seems to be turning more towards the good, and it has to do with this. You're looking at it now. It is now known as the Akkorokamui. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating information associated with part B, in this case the second version of this cryptid. So what is this Akkorokamui? Well, again, it is going to be the second part of this cryptid. Here though, it is a giant octopus, very very large in fact, with half of it being an octopus and then the other half being that of a woman, although apparently other versions out there are essentially the fabled giant octopus that apparently roams certain parts of this world. As far as its characteristics, its physical characteristics, it's essentially a gigantic octopus. Same style, same appendages, same everything. No difference on that part. Its length, though, is huge, very huge. There was a book that was called the Ainu and their Folklore. It was written in the 19th century by John Batchelor. In it, he was able to document a lot of the physical characteristics of it, either, I guess, from himself or from some of the people he interviewed. And he was able to tell that this thing, whatever it is about 120 meters in length. That is gigantic. That's well over 300 plus feet of total length. I mean, that's almost kaiju size. That's something that would definitely fall into the world of Godzilla. He was also able to document that it has this striking red color to it. This was his quote. He said it's likened to the color of the reflection of the setting sun upon the water. And also this creature has several forms of, not necessarily as an attack, but in some cases as a defense mechanism. In one case, it can have broken or disfigured, I'm sorry, not broken limbs, but limbs that can go missing, which is a common form of defense in the world of octopi, if that's the correct plural term, because whenever an octopi or an octopus is essentially going to be trapped somewhere, then it uses its appendages, I guess, to not necessarily like cut itself off, but to remove itself from harm's way. This is something that seems to be the same thing along the lines of this creature. And it has this other form of attack. It's this dark fluid, something that comes out of it, almost like a form of venom that it can use to attack its prey. It was also described by that very same author. He stated it because in his case, this thing one time attacked a ship. He stated it emitted a dark fluid which has a very powerful and noxious odor, again being tied to this Akkorokamui. But yes, on that same note, apparently this creature, this half woman, half cryptid, whenever it was cast out to the sea, it continued to have its reign of terror out there, at least at the very beginning, because there were multiple stories, multiple reports of the people there just trembling with fear. The notion that there was this thing out there openly and actively attacking ships and attacking a lot of the people that were out there by the sea. I mean, there were reports of it almost trying to swallow some of the ships, everything, including the ship and all the people in it. So that way, it was instilling so much fear. And when that was occurring, I mean, the people obviously were just freaked out about this gigantic thing that was out there. And when that occurred, I don't know if this was by something along the lines of this Akkorokamui having a change of heart, or if the people took a more adamant approach to show it how it can lead a different lifestyle, quote unquote lifestyle. But somewhere along the way, this creature, this cryptid, this half woman, decided to change its attitude. Rather than, let's say, being destructive, rather than, let's say, just causing all these reigns of terror, it decided to then somewhat do good, as crazy as it sounds, because I guess people started presenting offerings to the creature, maybe to appease it, maybe to pay tribute, pay respects, much like you would in this case, like if you're approaching a sacred land or a sacred a deity, something along those lines, then you would approach it with these gifts. And then the creature, this Akkorokamui, decided, I guess, they liked it. She absolutely liked having these offerings, because the way the story goes, these offerings matched the very sea that this cryptid was now in or resided in. People would bring fish, they would bring mollusks, they would bring a lot of sea life, a lot of stuff that's out there for the creature, and it in turn decided to provide these benevolent, these kind things, gifts, services to the very creature. To the people that were presenting these offerings to the creature. Isn't that crazy? At one point, this thing, when it was on land, was just pretty much hell on earth, and then when it was cast out into the sea, it continued to do so just for a little bit, and then somewhere along the way, it had that change of heart. So much so now that it's considered, I guess you could call it almost like a good luck, good omen, that whenever you come across known areas that belong or reside this Akkorokamui, you're supposed to go there. You go through a purification process. Before you enter the shrine, you have everything cleaned, like your hands are cleaned, your feet are also cleaned as well. You bring your offerings, and when you do so, then you're supposed to receive some kind of ailment for yourself. So in this case, if you have something like a disability, if you have disfigurement, if you have like a missing body part even, then it's supposed to grant give you the powers, the resources, whatever is needed to get over that thing. So that bad part that's essentially in your life, in form of healings, form of purifications. I mean, it's crazy to read all of this and realize that this is all coming from the very, very same creature, the very same cryptid that we were just that the video highlighted was having like all this reign of terror beforehand, and it's stuck to this very day. Homages to this Akkorokamui continue up to this point in those multiple regions that I was mentioning earlier there, Funka Bay, Taiwan, and then Hokkaido, Taiwan, and or certain parts of Korea as well. Be interesting to see if there's any of those shrines that are still out there being actively used to this very day. But yes, at least to today's standpoint, if you go to those portions of the world, then you and you know that there's going to be a Akkorokamui somewhere out there in the vicinity, it is wise to be able to present these offerings and showcase the respect, I guess, that this half woman, this half octopus has to have in order to ensure that you appease her. Now, there's still no mention yet if this thing can essentially go back to its bad ways, but why bother, let's say, risking things when you can just follow the path of success and ensure that you can that you can bring these offerings to it? Because something that stood out when I was reading the information that to this very day kind of makes sense. It's pretty much that you can only go by its location and basically be allowed to escape its location with its permission. That stood out to me, because the thing now, the way I read it, is it's not necessarily out there to do bad, but at the same time it's going to be watching you and making sure that you respect it otherwise. But yes, that's pretty much it. That's all the info tied to part B, second version of this cryptid, now known as Akkorokamui. So if anyone has anything else to mention, something I might have missed, something that stands out, please post those comments below. Anybody have seen shrines dedicated to one? There's one there, a well-known one now in Kyoto, and also on the island of Hokkaido that I mentioned earlier. So if anybody happens to see any of those active shrines, how awesome would that be to go there and see it, and then wonder, like, is this truly appeasing? In this case, this half woman, half octopus cryptid out there. That would be really fascinating to see too. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.